Mic check 1 2 1 2. It's the Y2K collector. And if you're starting a video game collection in 2025, do not start with retro video games. In my opinion, the best place to start is going to be with a Nintendo Switch. Now, this is going to be ironic coming from someone like me because I haven't collected for the Nintendo Switch heavily pretty much all year. I could probably count on one hand how many Nintendo Switch games I've purchased this year, but that's because coming into this year, I already had a significant video game collection and I was looking to focus and hone in more on retro games. But that's not something that I would recommend for someone who's just starting a video game collection in 2025. The reason being is that video game or retro video game prices are still very high. And if you've never had a video game collection before and you're still not sure about which types of video games you're most into, it doesn't make sense sinking that type of money into video games that you may or may not like. So in my opinion, the best place to start is going to be with the Nintendo Switch. And there's a number of reasons why I'm saying that. For one, the Nintendo Switch has a very broad ecosystem online. There's a lot of things that you can do with a Nintendo Switch before you even purchase one video game. If you sign up for the Nintendo Switch Online Access, it'll give you access to a number of retro video game titles to begin with, including Super Nintendo titles, Game Boy titles, NES titles, Sega Genesis titles, N64 titles. The Nintendo Switch ecosystem, especially online and for all of the other services that they provide you, is very vast. So you really would be able to get a taste of a lot of different video game genres and even of a lot of different retro gaming consoles by being able to play their games through the Nintendo Switch Online service. So just the ecosystem for the Switch, I think, in my opinion, makes it a great place to start figuring out what types of games you actually like to play. So that's the biggest reason why I say that. The second reason why I say that is because the sun is setting on the original Nintendo Switch model, and that includes all Switch, like the standard Switch that you can dock to a TV, the Switch Lite, which is what you're looking at right here, and even the Switch OLED models. That is getting ready to be the last generation of Nintendo Switch consoles because we're getting ready to see the Nintendo Switch 2 emerge, which is really going to put this generation to bed, so to speak, and we'll have moved on, which makes this a very good time to start looking at older Nintendo Switch consoles like the Switch Lite, like the regular Switch, because once the new Switch comes out, a lot of these handhelds like the Switch Lite and the regular Switch, they're going to drop in price, and they've already started to drop in price. I personally think a good place to start would be with a Switch Lite. Now, some people might defer, they might argue and say, no, go ahead and get a standard Switch because you can dock it to a television. I think it honestly depends on who you are and what your circumstances are. If you are a person who does a lot of gaming by yourself, you're not in a home where you have to share the console with multiple people. If you don't have like siblings you're going to be sharing your console with, if you're not planning on gaming with a bunch of people live in person in a couch co-op format, then I think the Switch Lite is just fine. It's going to give you everything that the standard Switch would give you, just without the capability of docking it to any type of station. And even if you wanted to use some type of external controller, like an 8-bit DOE, or if you wanted to use like a wireless GameCube controller, you can still connect those things to your Switch Lite. Again, you're just not going to be able to dock it to a television screen. So in my opinion, the Switch Lite is a great place to start just because it's going to be less expensive than a standard Switch. It's going to be a great introduction to the Switch console itself, as well as the current Nintendo ecosystem that we're looking at. So that's the biggest reason, honestly, is the ecosystem. The second reason why I think the Nintendo Switch is a great place to start if you're just starting off with building any kind of video game collection is there is a wide, vast library of Switch games out there. I mean, it's just incredible. Even if you were thinking about getting any Nintendo console older than the Switch, whether that's the Wii U, the Wii, the GameCube, the Super Nintendo, the N64, the NES, regardless of any other Nintendo console you were thinking about getting, you don't need to, because a lot of the most popular titles from all of those consoles are going to be made available to you on the Switch in some way, in some form. And so that kind of eliminates the need for you to get those consoles right away. Now, if you are a person who's looking to start a video game collection, but you have memories of playing older consoles, there's a novelty factor there that only you can determine how much that's worth. For people now, some novelty is worth more to some people than it is to others. For some people, novelty isn't worth anything, and those will probably be the people who are doing the most emulating, right? If you're a person who doesn't care about novelty and you just want to experience the games, then the Switch is really going to be a great place for you to kind of experience a lot of those older Nintendo consoles. Now, the only other I guess library of games that you know would rival like Nintendo's library would be the PlayStation, right? There's a lot of PlayStation games that I would say rival Nintendo's library. The reason why I don't put Sega up there is because once Sega stopped producing consoles, their library pretty much became available to everyone. Sega, Sony, Sony, Nintendo, Xbox, Microsoft. I mean, all of those consoles have Sega games on them. So I wouldn't, really regard Sega's library like that. But the only other library that I would say rivals Nintendo's library would be like a PlayStation library, because you got a lot of classic franchises that came out of Sony. Think about it: Tomb Raider, Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, God of War. The list goes on, right? We could go on for days. The same way Nintendo has their classic IP, Super Mario, Princess Peach, Zelda, all that stuff. I would say Sony probably has a great library of IP, original games that they have for their consoles that would probably rival. So, but I think that you'll be able to whet your palate a little bit better with Nintendo's ecosystem. And then if you decide to move on from there, you can always move on and get yourself a PlayStation 4 for really cheap, because PlayStation 4s are really, really cheap right now. Everyone's trying to sell theirs so that they can get a PlayStation 5. Or just, I feel like a lot of people are just trying to get out of PlayStation 4, unless you're like a collector and you really want to have a PlayStation 4 library. A lot of casual game players are selling their PlayStation 4s to move into the PlayStation 5 ecosystem and start playing PS5 games, and just moving on to that next generation of gaming. So because the reality of it is that most casual game players pretty much are playing the same 10 games. They're either playing a Madden game, they're playing a NBA 2K game, they're playing a soccer game, they're probably playing the more popular game that's out at the time, whether it be like an Elden Ring or like most casual players are playing like the same top 10, 15 games. It's really gamers that start to really niche down and look for titles that are a little bit different, a little bit intricate, and things like that. So if you're just getting started off, you're probably not really concerned with more of the niche titles. You haven't really figured out which genres you're most into yet, and you're just trying to think about, okay, which games do I want to play? I think it's very, very important for anyone who's starting a video game collection in 2025 to figure out which is their top 2, maybe 3 genres. I really like to keep it to no more than 2, because that's how you can contain the things that you buy and make sure that you're not all over the place buying a bunch of games. But I think the Switch is a great device that will help you kind of figure out which is your favorite top 2 genres, whether it be beat 'em up, hack and slash games, open world games, puzzle games, RPGs, simulation games, stealth assassin games, first person shooters. Whatever the case may be, the Switch is going to help you figure out what your niche genre is, and then you can start really honing in on that when it comes to building a collection. And that's what I think for going into 2025. I know I've given the Switch a lot of, I don't even think I've hated on the Switch. I just haven't really collected for it because, again, my focus has been building out my retro collection. That's really what I've been focused on this year. In fact, a lot of these are just a lot of the games and consoles that I've collected pretty much the last quarter of the year. And I sold a lot of things and I traded away a lot of games to pick these up. But I've really been diving into original Xbox because I just feel like now's a good time for me to get into Xbox. I don't think there's any hype around the original Xbox. I don't think anyone really cares about it except for like the few that really like are diehard Xbox fans. And I also have been into NES all year. I've been collecting for the NES all year just because it's another one of those consoles that some people feel like is moving into Atari territory in terms of people just not caring about it. I still care about the NES. I think that there's some great titles on the NES and I'm going to collect for it. So Those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Which is the best console to start your collection with if you're starting a brand new collection in 2025? I'm interested to know your thoughts, and I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector, and I'll be back this week with a more edited video. I know I've been doing a lot of these run and gun videos, but it's just been crazy. It's the end of the year, doctor's appointments with the kids, get family stuff, getting ready for the holidays, Christmas shopping, gift wrapping, making cookies, the whole 9 yards. You guys know. If you got a family, if you got kids, you know what I'm talking about. But I will be putting something together for the Y2K crew this week. But until then, y'all take it easy. It's the Y2K Collector. Peace.